What's going on, guys? It's UrAvgConsumer, and today we're going to be taking a closer look at the new OLED Nintendo Switch. We're going to be seeing if it's worth the cop or if it's a drop. But before we jump into the video, we have to give a huge shout out to today's sponsor, BlockFi. BlockFi is a crypto platform looking to build a bridge between cryptocurrencies and traditional financial and wealth management products. And they offer what's called a BlockFi interest account that allows individuals and companies that own crypto to earn interest in crypto with that account. And of course, BlockFi allows its clients to buy or sell cryptocurrencies, including Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, and more. Not to mention, they also offer a BlockFi rewards card, which lets you earn Bitcoin on everyday purchases. You'll be able to earn 1.5% back in Bitcoin on every single transaction, and it has no annual fee. So if you want to get started, you can earn up to $250 as a Bitcoin bonus when you buy crypto on BlockFi. And guys, this is an exclusive limited time offer, so definitely check the links down below in the description if you want to get in on it now. But now, let's get back to that OLED Switch. And right off the bat, when I unbox this thing as a daily Nintendo Switch player, I could immediately see the difference, you guys. So the new Nintendo Switch has a bigger OLED display. It's a bigger screen, smaller bezels, and you got the OLED display. What does the OLED display mean? It means you're gonna get a much better screen, a better panel, you got better colors, more contrast, darker blacks. All of that leads to a much better viewing experience. And it just feels like a device that was made in 2021. We've got an original Switch over here, and as you guys can see, it's definitely got much bigger bezels. When you use this thing on its own, it's not so bad, but when you put it side by side with the new OLED Switch, you can see a huge difference. And it felt like night and day the second I unboxed this thing. If you're one of those people wondering, is there a big difference between the screens? I'll tell you right now, there absolutely is. Obviously the content is a little bit larger, but because it has that OLED screen, the colors pop quite a bit more. It is just a very nice viewing experience. Certain games though, once they get dark, it gets really dark. So that's something you kind of have to deal with. But the overall experience on this, absolutely amazing. So yes, it is a very different experience playing on the OLED Switch compared to the original. I'm telling you guys, trust your boy on this one. It's a lot nicer. But Nintendo made some other changes with the Switch as well, one of which being the new kickstand. So as you guys can see, it is no longer this one random strip of plastic that's supposed to be used as, listen, I don't know what Nintendo was thinking. But this right here is a legitimate stand. Makes it very, very easy to just place this thing down, use it in many angles. This is how it should have been from the start. Nintendo did a really good job with this guy. It feels solid. It even feels like it's metal. Adds to the feel of quality here, but this thing is great. I wouldn't change a thing. Now, because we do have like this larger display, the Switch has expanded ever so slightly. It's a little bit wider than the standard Switch, and most people won't even notice the difference. But where this becomes an issue is if you have some accessories, maybe like some grips or something, it's not going to fit on the OLED Switch. And if it does, it might be a little bit weird. Chances are you're gonna wanna get dedicated OLED Switch accessories, especially when it comes to like grips and anything that conform to the body of the original Switch. So if you are coming from one of the original ones, that's something to keep in mind. But the slots for the Joy-Cons are pretty much the same. So if you do have third-party accessories or you have some Joy-Cons that you love from your old Switch, they'll fit on here with no problem. That part is still the same, thankfully. So even third-party Joy-Cons will work here without issue. Now, something that they've changed here that I'm not really a fan of, while using it, just trying to mess with the volume, the buttons are fine, but they were way easier to press on the original model. But the original had slightly more raised buttons. These are a little bit more recessed, so they're a little bit harder to press. I like the originals quite a bit more, but the power buttons though, those are pretty much the same. I just find myself kind of pressing in a little bit more with the volume buttons here. I wish Nintendo kept it a little bit more raised. But with all the physical changes that Nintendo has made, this pretty much feels like the original Switch when it's in your hand and you're actually playing. But with that screen and the overall experience from having a nicer display, it feels a lot more premium, especially with this like metal kickstand in the back. And for me, it's definitely felt like an upgrade compared to what I've been using. Now, something else that Nintendo has been advertising is improved speakers. And I gotta say, guys, I didn't notice a change in the sound at all. So if you're hoping that this thing has louder, boomier sound or something like that, it's not gonna be anything crazy. And while we're talking about things being pretty much the same, performance. So this is not the Nintendo Switch Pro that we were all hoping for. This is pretty much using the same internals as the original Switch. So performance-wise, what you got with the original, you're getting here. You're not gonna get better frame rates or anything like that. And I think that's why a lot of people were pretty upset when they got the news about the OLED Switch. While I think Nintendo did a really good job in terms of just the hardware and the overall experience when it comes to actually looking at the games, on the performance side of things, it's pretty much the same. So it's definitely lacking, and I understand why people would be upset. So if you've already got a Switch and you don't really care for the visual upgrades that you're getting here, chances are you probably won't care for the OLED Switch at all. Now, I'll be honest, for me personally, the games that I play, I didn't really need an upgrade in power. Everything that I enjoy playing on the Switch has run smoothly for me for the most part, even on the original Switch. So the experience here has been pretty much the same, but I just get that better overall viewing experience, which has pretty much made the whole thing feel a lot better for me. But if you like to play games where there's a lot going on the screen at once, I think that's when you want to wait for the next iteration of the Switch, something that provides a little bit more power. Now, speaking of power, you're probably wondering about the battery life. And for the most part, battery life is also kind of the same. Certain games, of course, can take advantage of like the OLED display, especially those darker games, since with an OLED display, whenever there's black on the screen, the pixels are not being lit. So it's using less power, not consuming as much juice. So there's maybe some slight battery savings here and there, but it's a game by game basis. So you're not gonna see an overall increase in battery life on this guy. For me personally, from the games that I've been playing, it's felt exactly the same. So no real benefits in terms of battery there. Yet another reason why you might not want to upgrade. Now, the Switch isn't the only thing that got a few cosmetic changes. We've also got the new Switch dock. This is slightly different. They've got more rounded edges. We've got that white design, obviously, and there's a little bit more space where the Switch actually sits. It even has like these, what feel like kind of rubber strips. So Nintendo's been listening a bit. They made sure that the Switch doesn't get scratched up. You will notice it jiggles ever so slightly, but I can live with that as long as my screen stays intact. So not a big deal. Some changes though that they made are in the back. The plate is now removable. Instead of it just like kind of sitting there, you can remove it. But they also added an Ethernet port. So they've added an Ethernet port so that if you want to have this thing docked up, connected to your modem, router, whatever it may be, you can go ahead and have that. So I used the Ethernet feature for the first time with this guy, and I was actually a little bit surprised. They actually cap the speed that you get from the Ethernet port. I believe the max I could get out of it was, I think maybe 70 megabits. So you're not gonna get crazy speed or anything. It's all capped. So if you're trying to download games, it might still take a little while. It's gonna be better than Wi-Fi, of course, because you got that stable 70 or 60, whatever it may be that you have. So just in case you set yours up with an Ethernet cable, don't be surprised when you see possibly lower speeds than you get with like your laptop or something. But overall, I do like the dock. You've got the two USB ports on the side now, and I think it's fine. I don't ever use it, to be completely honest with you guys. I'm always in handheld mode, which is why the screen getting upgraded is such a big deal for me. I always play like this, and so I think this has the biggest impact on me. And this is just a nice touch. Now you might be wondering, is it worth upgrading at all? Is it worth picking up? Well, if you already have a Nintendo Switch, chances are you probably won't need this unless you really care about that visual experience. Like I said, this does feel a bit more premium for sure, and viewing things and playing games on this is a much better experience. I'm telling you guys, with the OLED screen, it's a night and day difference. I am extremely, extremely happy with this version. But if I was already a Switch owner and didn't have to pick one up for work, would I upgrade? Probably not. At 350 bucks, it's a pretty tall order. Maybe if I could sell my original one and, try to make up most of that difference, then maybe I could go ahead and pull the trigger. But unless that opportunity to sell my old Switch for most of the cost was there, I probably wouldn't upgrade. Now, do I recommend this version over the older Switch? Absolutely. It is worth the extra 50 bucks to have the newer screen because it makes a huge difference. So I definitely think it's worth it if you don't already have a Switch. But if you do have the Switch and money's not really an issue for you, have at it, because I think this is an absolutely great gaming experience on the go. We've seen how different the PlayStation Vita was of the original version compared to the later models that switched from OLED to like LCD displays. It's a huge difference, and the OLED will always trump it, especially when you've got like the cleaner screen here. So if you've got the money or you don't have a Switch already, I think this is a safe cop. So there you have it. My only other recommendation is if you already have a Nintendo Switch, don't play anybody's OLED version. You will be ruined. I promise you. Don't do it to yourself. Trust me. But that about wraps it up for this video, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I know these are gonna be extremely hard to come by, so if you can get it at the original price, kudos to you, but it's not gonna be looking too good, especially this time of year, you guys. But if you have the opportunity, I say jump on it if you want it. If you have one of these already, I'll have some of my favorite accessories linked down below in the description. I did a whole video about it. But till next video, guys, your average consumer. Peace. Jay, would you upgrade?
No. I'm good.
There you go.